play a game.
No, fuck that! You go first!
I'd love to, but I'm the only one that knows how to operate it.
Is this a joke? Are you pulling my zucchini right now?
I'm serious.
You can barely pump gas.
I'm sure. Give it up.
I see you always circling around the block waiting for the full-service lane to be empty.
Bullshit. I just don't want to, take anybody's job.
Oh my god, this is still going on?
Texas Mike is being a wimp.
You're being a big pussy.
Ah! Change your tampons, girls. Get on with it. Did you get it? Of course I got it.
Ah, score.
Holy shit, did you score some noob?
Bet your furry white ass.
Hey, where's my change?
What do you mean, change? I didn't go to the 7-Eleven, dickhead.
All right, jeez.
Now, what do you want?
Blue velvet.
Same.
More red ramrod for me. Moondog!
Oh, I quit, baby. But I will take a lose.
Man, what do I look like? A 70s housewife? I got nuke. Fucking boomers. Girls, are you down?
Boom. I mean, right up here, ready to rock and roll.
Nobody told me I needed to have drugs for this, you know? Like, come on.
Well, just say no to nuke, daddy.
Mikey, are you coming from, the bulk barn at Price Club or something?
It's like Costco. I
I'm afraid Bananas ain't gonna make it out of this show.
mean, my guy was saying, look, you can come back and see me again tomorrow. Or look, we can make a deal right here, right now. I can give you the best bang for your buck. You're going to walk out of here happy. I'm going to walk out of here happy. It's going to be a win-win situation. So I've got essentially the big gulp version of Nuke right here.
Well, in the words of Jonathan Taylor Thomas, y'all ready for this? No, apparently he is.
Aaron, all business on the White Lightning. Total pro.
You might want to take it easy there.
He's on the wings of Hauser now. The Benzedrine has got my teeth wiggling.
Mikey!
Yes, sir.
Look at Nancy Reagan up there.
What's wrong, Eric? Not down with the scene? You ain't bad enough.
Nobody told me.
People want paradise, and they shall have it.
All right, I'm loose enough, man. Let's get on with the show. I'm going in.
Yeah, and shrink yourself a little bit to fit into that shirt too, Chubbs.
What? It's slimming. On the count of 3, all right? 3, 2, you bastard!
Oh, look at the little arcade.
Whoa.
Why do my balls hurt so bad? Every time!
Oh, so we don't have to get naked for this thing?
Yes, we can wear clothes, man. This ain't Terminator. You watch too many movies.
I just didn't want to see you playing track and field with your fruit bowl hanging out.
1990, huh? Drag. I wanted to play Simpsons. Anyway, this is cool. This isn't bad, except everything smells like cigarettes and Aquanet.
Oh, paradise.
Oof, it hurts to sit down. Ooh. I'm gonna tell you people, I hope you packed another pair of slacks, because get ready to shit your pants with absolute joy, because we are home, babies. This right here, man. Not a cell phone for miles, women with bangs, 20% off at Linens and Things next door, and the constant threat of getting punched in the face for shooting your mouth off the way God intended it.
Without a doubt, the de facto proving grounds where teenage game junkies and chain-smoking mall rats alike rule the night. Well, until 10. Together in a cacophony of glorious beeps and boops. And boy, do we ever have a professional cast assembled this evening. Fistfuls of quarters and heads full of noob. Ladies and gentlemen, the Best Friends Club gang.
Speaking of professional, it's nice to see that Metal T got the business casual memo right there in his Paul Reiser Husband of the Year pajamas.
Short ass fucking.
And then there's Mikey there in his pasty ass legs. No doubt with a pocket stuffed with Velcro wallets full of baseball cards and a 7-year-old rubber.
Burn! He got you.
Some blue jeans, yo.
Fuck you, Eric. You and BBQ perpetually dress like the most haggard 14-year-olds I have ever seen. Nice Japanese Star Wars poster in the background. Just tying your living room together. You guys are magnificent adults, man. Just killing it.
A marvelous gathering of chums, to be sure.
And listen, all you folks out there, relax. We're not changing our format or anything, striving to be the angry video game nerd or anything like that. The music's coming. But I gotta warn you, this is hardly gonna be an obscure OG pressing flex. It's not that kind of show tonight. I'd say at best it's gonna be more of an M&M trail of clues of when we grew up, where we hung out, and the musical influences that were in the air at the time. And I think that the arcade is a perfect backdrop to that.
My balls! Shit, you were right. Ugh. Feel like I'm hung like a 2-year-old.
Hop on your toes for a minute, man. It'll help. Alright, business. Eric, you got any funny, sleazy adventures in Washington that you care to share with us?
When I was in high school, you know, like me and my friends, bunch of fucking crusty punk rockers, we'd walk down to the arcade that was near our high school, and that one was called Quarters. So we'd stop at the record store, which was like a few doors down from the arcade.
Oh shit, record store right next to the arcade. Here we go.
Yeah, buy a record maybe, but then we'd walk to the arcade, and that's where we'd buy our weed or acid or whatever else we wanted to do that night. Usually from, you know, some dude that looked like it's probably about 45 and drove like a fucking Pontiac Fiero or something like that. Like, that's cool.
Enough said. It seems to be a strong argument for zoning regulations.
And a wonderful place to meet new friends.
I mean, we were punk outcasts, dude. Like, nobody wanted to talk to us except for the people selling us drugs.
But was there like anything remotely positive about your time at Quarters? Friendship bracelets, first kiss in the corner next to the Popeye cabinet? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there was that. It never really stemmed from the arcade. The arcade was just kind of like where we would go after school, because that was where our leisure time activities lied, was like the generosity of old dudes that wanted to sell drugs to young dudes, like, you know.
Oh, hamburgers. Aaron, anything life-affirming about your times at the arcade? Perhaps one not involving the possibility of being abducted and molested by chicken hawk predators?
Okay, so the arcade options, you know, I never really saw any like seedy shit like that. But remember, I turned 11 in 1983. So I might have just been like too fucking naive, you know what I mean? Like if someone could have been making a drug deal right in front of me, I'm sure I would have had no fucking clue, you know what I mean? And like cigarette machines, I wouldn't have smoked cigarettes when I was that age. I was way too, you know. That streak didn't come out until later in life. So there were like the places up the street, and I remember the little town that I grew up in, the first suburb going west of Cleveland is Lakewood, and they passed some like city ordinance where like if you were within X number of feet of a church or a school, you couldn't have video machines. And it put like these little places out of business because they were fucking living off these fucking machines. Like I remember there was this ice cream place right by my school called the Whistle Stop when I was in like 5th grade or whatever. And like when they passed that ordinance, it was too close to the school. So like they tried to hang in there for a little while, but like it was pretty obvious from the get-go that they weren't going to be there very long. You know, and that just sucked. So there's my bummer to start off
So
with.
Aaron grew up in Footloose. Did you at least try to have a car wash or a dance-off to save the arcade?
It'll be worth $100 million once we bulldoze it and build condominiums there.
That's funny though, because it's fucking true. That's exactly what happened.
One of cinema's finest tropes.
Except the good guys lost, because the bad guys always win in real life.
God damn, this is depressing. Would anyone like a Zoloft?
Anyway, for arcade options, okay, the two real options were this place called Aladdin's Castle, which was in the mall, and then Chuck E. Cheese. You know, so Chuck E. Cheese, like you had the package, right, where you had the pizza and shit too. So that was always a plus, right? But as far as just being a cooler place, the place in the mall probably wins. Aladdin's Castle. That place was fucking cool. It was always really loud and shit. That's why, it's funny because I usually, when I play video games, I mute the TV and listen to records. But there's a part of me that's like, when I was a fucking kid in the arcade, they didn't fucking mute the games. They fucking turned it all up.
Bananas, your well-documented record night history of always being dropped off all day at a Northern Carolina putt-putt. Oh, with a hot dog and a Pepsi so your parents could have sex on Saturdays?
I went to a lot of 1986.
It is.
But, like, we didn't have like a other than the putt-putt. I think we had a mall arcade, which I wasn't too familiar with because it was like in the city that was kind of the next over. So I didn't go there when I was a little kid. But the big thing for us, aside from putt-putt, was you'd have like redneck ass convenience stores with a couple of machines in it, and some guys just pony up. There's money laid on top. There's a couple of Budweisers cracked open. I mean, you know what the hell's going down here. It was like that kind of vibe. And those were the places, like, you come in there and, looking the wrong way. Someone's going to be like, hey, what you looking at? Like, it was one of those places. So that was our kind of, like, seedier places. And it's funny because that is some of the unique things is when people realized how lucrative the arcade machine was and it was such a hit thing, they started sticking them in all these places. Anywhere you could stick a fucking arcade machine, there was an arcade machine.
So to be honest, this episode was intended to be way simpler. And I was going to call it something like I was a tween-age poser. So for me, there was like this rundown 70s pool hall in Lab City called the Casino, and it was located in the ass end of the strip mall, and it kind of shared a heat bag alley with the Royal Theater. Anyways, it'd be the place to go while your parents were like picking up groceries or something like that, but it was also a pretty hard spot. Now imagine me, fresh 12, showing up in red jogging pants, in a neon green 7-Up shirt. Quarters tucked into my kangaroos.
Hey, that's what I did.
We're talking fresh meat here. Anyways, I remember this one time, this guy with a white eyebrow.
Did he just hit by lightning?
I don't know. But he was a real dirtbag, 16 or 17, and he stepped in front of me from coming in, and he was like, where the fuck you think you're going? I want to play Karnov. And he just laughed in that dirtbag sort of way and shook his head with disapproval. Then he looks at me and calls me a faggot savant. Oh, God, like any self-respecting gay man would wear what I had on. And then he looked at me and threatened to beat the living shit out of me if I didn't leave. So, I mean, that sucked.
Oh, my pelvis! My testicles feel like Priscilla's dad is back into my life.
But my one takeaway from all this, the one thing that I remembered, was that all these unhassled, smoking delinquents had one thing in common. And then I ran back to my mother and asked her if she could take me to the store so that I could pick up a skeleton band shirt. And not having a clue about heavy metal. And surprisingly, she did. Confused as hell, but she did. And here's that shirt today.
Oh, wow.
Hold it up, Castillo.
Wow.
Damn.
There was always a weird interculture going on in the arcade too, and each had to coexist. Because there was not only the younger electronic game teens, but the pinball crowd as well. Kind of an older, more 70s scene. And on top of that, you had the pool sharks and hustlers in the back, usually much older again. And the guys most likely selling acid and weed to Eric.
I got addicted to pinball, man. I'm still pretty good at pinball. Like, Terminator 2 pinball was my shit back then.
Whoa, Daddy! T2 pinball! I only know the arcade version with the 2 machine guns.
Yeah, the pinball game was fucking where it's at. I worked at a Godfather's Pizza, and we had Golden Axe 2 machine, Terminator 2 pinball machine, Miss Pac-Man's sit-down machine, like the sit-down tabletop.
Oh, the cocktail cabinet. A personal favorite of mine. A fifth of peach brandy and a sit-down ice climber could kill a lazy Sunday, mama.
I couldn't even tell you how many hours at Godfather's Pizza was spent not working and playing Miss Pac-Man or Terminator 2 pinball.
My dad was something of a pinball wizard. And that was like his thing. He stayed on the pinball. He loved some pole position, but he stayed on pinball. So much so that, like, later on in life, he always talked about, like, early, before all these stupid video games, pinball was the shit, and that's what we were running. Bet money and beers and whatever on it. And then, so one day I get home from school, and my dad's like, you'll ride me over to Greensboro? I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, I think I'm about buying me a pinball machine. I'm like, say what now? And he's like, yeah, I've been talking to a guy. Jump the van, let's go. And I'm like, I'm not asking all these questions. Just jumping around, like, what the? And he's like, just real stoic about it. And we get over there, and this guy's got all these pinball machines, dude. And my dad goes in there and, like, walking around with his hands in his Sansa slacks, like, looking at fucking shit. And, like, and finally he's like, goes over to this one. He's popping the flippers, shakes the table around a little bit, and he's like, I'll take this one. And I'm like, And so my dad came home with Asteroid Annie and the Aliens. I think it's the last single-player Gottlieb table ever.
If my testicles weren't so sore, I'd pop a cordial erection right now.
We had a very modest house, but one room was the fucking pinball room. And we went in there, and me and my dad would trade off. He was good. He's bumping it with his hip, you know, and like, just, dude, it was like showing out. We call that showing out around here. And he would show out like a mother.
I didn't really appreciate pinball until I got a lot older. Yeah, when I was a kid, it was all about the video games.
Yeah, same with me, Aaron. I think it was 93 when Bally released the Judge Dredd and Twilight Zone. That got my interest. But other than that, yeah, the electronics. Now I know that there's going to be friends of the show, and they're already grumbling to themselves about the lack of musical content. All right, I'm sorry. We're going to get to that. 'Cause I'm curious as to what you guys are into before the skeleton bands or the punk and funk took over. Aaron, who were you prior to becoming the metal theologian? Maybe the new wave theologian?
It was kind of a mishmash, really. I mean, I liked electronic shit, but like I didn't like it when it was done like a poppy way. Like that Herbie Hancock album, I thought was fucking fantastic. You know, Future Shock, and you know, like the Fix kind of did that too. I mean, even Men Without Hat. Like looking back on like the pop music that I was into, I can sort of see why I liked it. You know what I mean? Because I liked it when they were doing shit that seemed like different kinds of sounds and that sort of thing, and sort of trying something new with it. But I gravitated towards the hard stuff pretty early on, you know? I bought my first copy of Peace of Mind in late 1983.
Oh no, that would be about five years later for me. And another thing, back then, apart from like Sesame Street Fever or those Star Wars story records, I was a tape guy all the way.
I was a tape guy. I have some records to supplement, but I mean, I'm a tape guy back then.
I bought those 2 records, and I bought tapes for the next couple of years, and then I went back to records and probably like... I mean, I sort of did it slowly between 84 and 86. That's kind of a story, too. But
Mikey, you're a 77 baby, too, right?
Well, you know, we're the same age, but I was a fucking kid, and I ain't got no brothers or sisters, so I'm like, they ain't no... I would love to tell you that in elementary school, I was listening to fucking Venom and fucking Motorhead. That's not the case. It's just not the case. I was listening to Michael Jackson's Thriller. I mean... That's the OG. Like, that's what was happening.
So you weren't into skeleton bands?
I mean, later, Van Halen 1984. That just screams 80s arcade more than anything in the world to me. And the other thing for me, like personally, would have been Eliminator. And, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, the early ZZ Top so much better. And you're right. But I love this record.
Is that the one with Velcro Fly, or is that on the Afterburn?
No, that's the next one.
This is Legs and TV Dinners and shit like that. And it's like,
a good record.
But as a kid, it's really good. Everybody's like, oh, that sounds like a drum machine. I'm like, fuck off. I mean, you know what? You know what it also is a monster. And they had cool videos. They had hot chicks, cool cars, neat keychains. I mean, it had it all. This would have been like starting like when I was started going by myself. So we're talking like the beginning of middle school.
I see poison. See,
not all this is true. That's where I'm starting. That's exactly where I'm starting. Because the first thing that would have deviated from, I was a big like oldies guy. I like classic rock stuff. I like the stuff my parents had, and I like the pop stuff that was on the radio. Some of it, but the first time I was just kind of like a little bit like, you start feeling that little itch. Like, I was a big Chuck Berry guy, and he really taught me the values of rock and roll. He's the reason I play guitar. He's the reason I fell in love with rock and roll. So I always kind of had that showmanship kind of rock and roll thing in me. But then I started seeing like some of the hair metal bands were kind of like, I mean, they kind of walk that dog. You know what I mean? They showing off and shit like that. And first one I saw was Poison. And I was eat up with Poison. 6th grade. Me and Cameron both.
You know, I gotta say, looking back on it, I'm pretty proud of myself for being kind of progressive. Because even though I was duped into thinking that these guys were hot chicks, I take pride in the fact that I thought Bobby Dahl, the brunette, was the hottest, instead of the blonde floozies. Very progressive.
When I first saw this, I was like, wow, who's these chicks? God, they're hot. That's a true reaction. I'm not making that shit up. Like, so much, and I know it's corny, and not everybody likes that kind of shit nowadays, and it's not, you don't see people talking about Poison and shit, but when this popped up in my local shop, like the before the band cover, the original cover, I'm like, yeah, I'm buying this shit. I don't give a fuck. I'm buying this.
It fucking cracks me up that shit got banned. Probably the 3 most applicable things that I would have to like kind of associate with like the first era of the arcade would be like,
yes,
Rat, Beat, fucking
yeah,
Night Songs. and Great White, the first Great White.
Yeah, the arcade did have kind of the predictable soundtrack, all the usual suspects. State of Euphoria, Justice, So Far So Good, and then the scarier dudes were into Rain and Blood. But I'd say the most important arcade rad album of all time, championed by all, Appetite for Destruction. What a greasy album.
Oh shit, yeah.
Fuck Guns N' Roses.
Oh, listen to Poo Poo. Check out this cassette case, man, because this was my... Oh, shit! I brought the wrong briefcase!
Your attache. So what are you, fucking Barney Rubbles? Got a fucking diamond in it? Slalom! Slalom!
And slalom to you, too.
Cassio, do you mind pulling out that other tape briefcase next to you? Yeah, the one with Mirror McCheese and the scratch and sniffs on it.
Hello, Grimace. Let me guess, it's all Billy Idol.
I love Billy Idol.
I know, you were fucking gay for Billy Idol.
I wasn't gay for him, asshole. I just said in the past that I thought he was a great songwriter and had a perfect image for MTV.
I rest my case. Shit, look at this shameful lie.
Oh, there ain't nothing wrong with being gay for Billy Idol. You learn from the best. Look at this case here, alright? This was my musical world. Tears for Fears, that was the very first tape I ever bought. You got Fat Boys, R.E.O., Depeche Mode, Men at Work, and of course my queen, Samantha Fox,
Hell yeah.
And then there's my personal favorite, the Cars. Everything about the Cars was cool to me. The look, the sound, the lifestyle. And I was also inspired by Greg Hawkes to play the keyboards.
And I was inspired by Rick Ocasek's wife.
Hold up, I gotta get some quarters and get another wizard to drink. I'm parched.
He's Canadian.
He's gotta get a wizard.
I got to say, of all the bands in the world, for him to pick a favorite, I'm glad that the candidate here is the Cars. I can even do it. Cars.
Cares.
Cars.
Sorry about that. Yeah, man, the Cars. Hell of a band. Sleazy too, right? But had that Andy Warhol stamp of approval. And shit, yeah, ZZ Top was sleazy too. But in that kind of fun beer drinking pool hall kind of way. Whereas the Cars are more suited to doing coke with Liza Minnelli at Studio 54. You know that vibe?
100%.
Yeah, see, even before I got into the skeleton bands, like at the very beginning of the 80s, I thought the Cars was a dumb name. So I was always kind of prejudiced against them because of that. The stupid rules like that for why I didn't get into things. I mean, half the time, like if there's some band where I say I should have been into them back in the day, but I wasn't, it's probably because I had some stupid rule they somehow ran afoul of, and like I was just being a fucking dumbass, I mean, I was also a little kid, so what the fuck,
That same lineage, like what took me from like Poison, like right off the rip, but that led me to like one of Metal Theologian's all-time favorites. Europe's The Final Countdown, which honestly, I still love this fucking record to this day. The early Europe is like actually regarded and like good shit. I like Final Countdown too.
Yes, thank you.
Their best music video came off of The Final Countdown. Was the one at the Hard Rock Cafe where they're like
fucking singing into ketchup bottles,
singing into the spoon, and like
I don't even remember that.
This may be a little harder. Like Def Leppard Hysteria. This is one that I saw in the arcade a lot. And honestly, I saw what really drew me to this album or just this band in general is that I saw a lot of chicks wearing Def Leppard stuff. So I'm like, okay. And I've got another one that kind of leads to that. And it's kind of tipping that point. Because then I get into like Skid Row.
Sweet little sister.
Born to it. But there was still there was a little edge to this. At least it felt like to me then anyway. And chicks still liked it. It's one of those, that was kind of the thing, because you're in middle school, so it's all about doing what the chicks like. And if you could find the Venn diagram little cross section where that happens, it's cool music that you like, and the chicks dig it too. That's what I'll never forget, because you mentioned it before. This went to the next click over. Well, and all these tapes are probably these are all my originals. Have to be flea market bootlegs. I bought a bunch of flea market bootlegs back then, but Appetite for Destruction, that's the beginning. That changed everything. That went from like
a sleazy album. It's
very sleazy. Poison's sleazy, but they're like also like Poison, and there was something about Guns N' Roses, although they sort of looked like them in some ways. They were rough and tumble, and they would probably mess you up if you kind of screwed with them. You know what I mean?
They had a lot of that like street punk attitude. First Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, but I'll never forget when I first got into Guns N' Roses, 6th grade, and I bought. I think the same day I bought the tape, I bought this bootleg ass flea market Guns N' Roses T-shirt, and I wore it to school. And the hottiest, sluttiest I guess, 6th grade. Jean jacket, girl in the class says, "Hey, nice shirt," and my knees about buckled. And that was like, that's it, man.
But yeah, it was definitely gateway music to the music that we appreciate today. I know a lot of you roll your eyes and, compare it to modern metal. Yeah, this doesn't seem very heavy, but it was a hell of a lot heavier than the Cars and Weird Al. All these albums did, help facilitate the courtship process. So dig this. My buddy Jamie Squires, who was definitely my Sherpa into the world of heavy metal, he gets his ears pierced one summer. He comes back with a white snake shirt on, and this is terrifying to me. He said, "Come on over to Lab City tonight. We'll hang out at the casino." And I'm over there, and this girl, I didn't know how to act around women at all. And yeah, this girl comes up to me, and I suppose I'm a relatively good-looking kid, and she didn't know who the hell I was or what a big nerd I was. So she's hanging out with me, and she invites me out in Heat Bag Alley to kind of meet her friends. Well, I get out there ain't no friends there, and this young girl, right? I've never been kissed in my life. She shoves her tongue down my throat, and I immediately begin urging. She's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, I just think I might have the stomach flu. Not the thing you say. She must have been pretty hard up. Anyways, it was almost 8 o'clock, and Elm Street 5 was premiering at the theater. So I kind of excused myself. "Don't you want to hang out with a woman, or do you want to go see this fucking movie?" I'm looking at her, and I see the promotional one sheet. I'm like, I think I want to go see the movie. Arcade love, man.
Yeah, I wasn't willing to compromise at all when it came to the music. Yeah, I liked a lot of shit where I look back and go, "God damn, what did I ever see in that?" Right? But as far as what I liked, either I liked it or I didn't, and I wasn't willing to really compromise a whole lot on that front.
Look at Metal T. He wouldn't compromise for the girls.
The stuff that I associate musically with the arcade in high school, the soundtrack at the time, for me and my friends was shit like this,
Right.
Black Flag, this Accused record in particular, big one.
Right.
Discharge. Then probably the most metal of all of them was this fucking Excel. Love this shit.
Like I said, gateways to harder stuff. Like the flashing lights, the loudness of the arcade, and the graphic title designs that say Galaxian, Karnov, and Zaxxon. It's pretty obvious how and why it went so well with heavy metal. The artwork, the imagery, the logo designs. I really don't think there's another musical genre out there that puts so much effort, so much care into its actual overall package than heavy metal.
This is what changed my life. This is the step that moved forward. When I saw that, everything changed. And that was the next step, as where I was creeping up to heaviness level. That's the one that changed everything. That's the original.
Yeah, exactly. And James Hetfield was a draftsman, and he came up with that logo. And yeah, Aaron, look at that awesome Anthrax logo by Ken Jospy.
Oh yeah, totally.
So yeah, the arcade was an impressionable spot, for better or for worse.
Hey, speaking of impressionable, show him the other briefcase.
Right. Check it out. A complete 70s and 80s drug identification kit.
Hold on, guys.
Remember cops would bring him in the student assemblies and home ec class, and they talk about the dangers of drugs, especially barbiturates.
Kids, look out for black beauties and yellow jackets. Pink ladies, blue tips, cross tops, goofers.
Yeah.
It says poppers were usually the preferred drug for homosexuals at nightclubs.
Fair enough.
And it
That's
says,
awesome. Hold up.
Where's this little gentleman that's wearing this weed shirt? I want this little gentleman tattooed on me somewhere.
smoke
Is that
nature.
a stork?
He's a marijuana smoker. And he's a chicken. Fried chicken. And you can tell according to the chart, he's got spiked wristbands, small burns on the shirt, and unkept hair. To be fair, this is 100% accurate.
So as you can see, it's horribly outdated.
Pretty fucking amazing is what that is.
Well, kids out there, remember, winners don't do drugs.
Definitely don't do the hard ones.
Bit of nuking grass is okay, though.
Yeah, but you better find yourself before you lose yourself, Daddy. But definitely don't do Jankum or Crocodile.
You know, I kind of hate to admit to being that guy. Aw, kids, we had it so much better. Because, I'm biased. But I do look back fondly on the arcade, and I do kind of shit on the home console and online experience. But sometimes I play devil's advocate with myself. I know it wasn't all Gravy Town either. It was dangerous. You could get your ass kicked, and by getting my own Nintendo back in '87, that lessened all those dangers. But it also sucked, because you don't get to experience the thrill of all that too. How to handle yourself in a real fight, or when a girl sticks her tongue down your throat.
definitely kind of taught, like, I don't want to say social norms because I was anything except socially normal at the time, but like, I guess like humility and like how to interact with people that weren't in your peer group. Now it's, like you said, people hide behind their keyboards. They don't have any fucking sort of repercussions for how they talk to other people that they don't agree with. And back then, if you had any sort of disagreement in a place like quarters, like,
You get your ass handed to you back in those days.
You can 100% tell when you've run up against somebody that's never had their ass beat for flapping their gums too much.
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's a trait. But and when you talk about, I do a lot of online gaming and stuff like that, and I really enjoy it. So my answer is, why not both? I think the things that the online, the newer stuff that brings to the table is really cool and awesome, and a lot of advantages and convenience. But that doesn't mean cutting off your connection to the rest of society by never interacting in a way like we did back in the day with arcades, which is a very valuable, like, hey, there's a guy with a jean jacket. It's probably got a switchblade. Maybe I'll go put my quarter on the other machine. You kind of learn those little like things. And so, but I think a mix of the two would be ideal. Whether or not this particular society can withstand that, I don't know that that'll ever be the case. But I think both would be very beneficial.
I'd agree with that. I concur.
Aaron, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I'm generally going to side with the kids when it comes to shit like this.
Listen, I get it. Having emulators in every obscure movie and album at your fingertips is awesome. I'd be lying to myself if I denied it. But shit. But you guys are still gamers today, right?
Yeah, 12 consoles from all the way back from the 2600 all the way to now. Made it up, leap over to PC. Still stream games to this day. Play competitive shooters. Still play retro games like a madman. It's as honestly, it's probably as important to me as music. I hate saying that. It's not quite, but it's close, and it's been there for just as long, for sure.
I mean, I've got a PlayStation 5 now, but I got a little emulator. It looks like a tiny Nintendo. So I've got ROMs, NES, SNES, Genesis, TurboGrafx, various main cabinet emulators on there. I want to build a fucking arcade cabinet for a Raspberry Pi MAME emulator.
It's funny. I was going to make a wisecrack about Bananas having 12 consoles, but then I realized I'm looking at 6 right now. And, like, Train has more of his own in the other room, too, so... Although most of these are his, too. But anyway, yeah, so, I kind of rediscovered it because of my kids. It's probably, like, the least, kind of cool answer I can give to this. I said maybe from a cool dad standpoint or something like that. But, like, I quit giving a shit about video games really when I kind of stopped playing my friends' Commodores, and then I kind of forgot about video games like all through the 90s and really just got back into them when my kids got interested enough to start playing them. And they just got into retro games by themselves. Like the first console that, I think the first console Spencer got would have been a 3DS, but then the kids got that Nintendo, the NES that's sitting over there, like at the flea market or something. That was the ZX one they wanted because they wanted the cartridges and all that kind of shit,
Collectors like you.
It's in the bug.
There's probably some influence there. I mean,
Yeah, I think that, and I got it from my dad, right? Like he infected me.
But on the other hand, but it still doesn't account for the fact they liked older games. You know what I mean? And since we were talking about the whole online shit and all that, the whole sort of culture around online interaction, and that I kind of wonder sometimes if the whole record resurgence has something to do with a reaction against that. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well now, video game companies are at the point where they want you to start paying rents to them instead of just buying the games. Like we had already moved away a step from cartridges when we moved to downloads, and now it's moving to a subscription model from there too. So maybe instead of buying Spotify, I'm just going to buy this on record.
Fucking A.
Now it doesn't even matter. You buy a fucking PlayStation 5 game on disc, you put it in your machine, and all it does is download an install pack from the internet, and it installs it on your TV that way. The disc doesn't even matter, really.
Right. You see, what if there's a certain reaction against that, which is what's fueling some of the whole, records.
It's obnoxious because you don't even own the full game. They'll put out a game with content that you can't access until you spend a little bit extra fucking cash. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we gotta end this thing. But one final question. If you could have any arcade cabinet in your house, what would it be?
Probably Venture.
Ooh, I love Venture. Spook City.
What was it about Venture?
It had that D&D thing going on. That just appealed to me. And then when I actually played it, like, I thought the mechanics of it were good. It was a pretty easy game to play, but I liked the variety of it. The fact that it had different types of monsters and different rooms and shit like that. Different treasures. Like, it would play a different little tune when you got the treasure in each room.
Oh, burger time, mama.
Spy Hunter or Strip Poker?
Hydro Thunder, what a time.
If I had to own one cabinet, Robotron 2084.
Yeah, and for me, Ghouls and Ghosts.
Golden Axe 2 or Afterburner, the fucking full-on simulator.
God damn, Mr. 50 cents a game, big money hustler. Shit.
And it's just so cool, like Edward Furlong sitting in that Afterburner machine in Terminator 2. Fucking something all over the place.
All right, bring me back, Castillo. I'm out of quarters and I don't have Eric money.
You guys coming?
Thinking about sticking around.
Suit yourself.
Oh, God.
Did I say I was going to get a vanity plate for my car that just says Karnov?